Ukraine and the United States have agreed an economic deal that would provide the US access to Ukraine's rare earth minerals. Donald Trump said the deal could be signed with President Zelensky on Friday. Mr. Trump said the American taxpayers would get back more than the sum given in aid to Ukraine. The minerals include Ukraine's vast lithium reserves, which are used in batteries, and titanium, which is used for engines, turbines and power stations, and lots of other minerals. But correspondents say it's not clear whether the deal has security guarantees for Ukraine that President Zelensky has been asking America for. Just 2 weeks ago, Mr. Zelensky refused a demand from President Trump to hand over half of Ukraine's future mineral resources. That rejection angered Mr. Trump, who accused the Ukrainian leader of being a dictator to the delight of Russia. Well, now the two men appear to have patched up their differences.
When you spoke to Vladimir Putin, did he raise or did you discuss at all the possibility of a minerals deal on the Ukrainian land that Russia now controls?
I didn't discuss Russia. No. I'd like to buy minerals on Russian land too, if we can. The rare earth. They have very good rare earth also. They both do. I would say that. And oil and gas. Look, it's a great thing if we sell this. It's great for Russia too, because we can do deals there. They have very valuable land that isn't utilized. So something like that could take place, yeah.
Donald Trump. Meanwhile, Ukrainian officials are reporting more civilian casualties in the latest Russian bombardments, even as discussions continue between Kyiv and Washington on potential future security guarantees. The head of the eastern Donetsk region said Russian strikes with guided bombs killed 5 people in the city of Kostyantynivka. 2 people died in a drone attack on Kyiv. Officials say the number of casualties in both attacks may rise as people could still be trapped under the rubble. Well, for more on developments around Ukraine, I'm joined now on the line from London by the international affairs analyst, Dr. Marek Laskiewicz. Dr. Laskiewicz, great to see you again. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. So Ukraine and the US have reached agreement to jointly develop Ukraine's mineral resources. So this deal effectively secures long-term US involvement with Ukraine, doesn't it?
It secures it in the sense that there is mineral wealth there. And from the USA point of view, it's a good deal. It's exactly what Donald Trump wanted, rare earths and money, all coming to the USA. There's better aspects than that for the USA. There is no security guarantee given. And moreover, there's no evidence of any sort that he's prepared to put American troops there as peacekeepers or as a help or anything. So there from USA, it's just pure profit. From Ukraine's point of view, it keeps America linked to Ukraine. It means that American arms are still available, though whether they'll be as aid or whether they have to be purchased is not clear. It also means America is still talking to Ukraine, which is by no means clear just a few days ago that they would continue to do so. So there's something in it for Ukraine, though not a lot. The real loser is Europe, which has been frozen out of the peace negotiations and now out of the rare earths.
To be clear, no explicit security guarantees for Ukraine, just a commitment for economic collaboration at this point, and as you said, US support to possibly continue in the short term.
Quite right. There are no security guarantees. However, it has to be said, the whole business of security guarantees, which President Zelensky puts so strongly all the time, it's unclear why he's so obsessed by these, because in 1994, Ukraine got all the security guarantees it could hopefully wish for ever. And look what's happened. There's a war. And in that war, not only has Russia attacked Ukraine, but the other countries to this agreement in 1994 with security guarantees, such as USA, have done very little except, of course, supply aid. So therefore, Why he wants these security guarantees is unclear to this extent that he's willing to sacrifice other things. However, the important point is there are no security guarantees, but yes, there is a continuing link between Ukraine and America.
And in furtherance of the points you're making, ultimately this deal, I imagine, hinges on getting an agreement with Russia to end the war.
I'm not convinced that's the point, because the war, so to speak, is kind of a stalemate-ish aspect to it at present, yet again. And in effect, what Donald Trump wants is actually the best of both worlds. And he's certainly heading in that direction. He wants an agreement with Ukraine for America to get rare earths. He wants an agreement with Russia. And Russia, ever since, in fact, this deal with Ukraine suddenly hit the headlines, has been saying it has rare earths too, and it wants to attract American investment. And so therefore, America seems to be onto a winner on both sides. What is clear is that President Trump does want a peace treaty, but that's really for other reasons than the rare earths. He wants it primarily because he doesn't like wars. And number two, he wants to have business deals with Russia, as a nation, America, not his own personal. And also because he wants to be seen as being the man who put an end to this war.
But of course, as always, there are conflicting messages from Mr. Trump. I mean, we heard him say that this deal buys Ukraine the right to fight on and for the US not to pull the rug from under Ukraine immediately. But it is hard to see how that squares with Mr. Trump's desire to get a ceasefire deal with Russia as soon as possible.
Yes, it's rather what he doesn't say than what he says is important. He says Ukraine must be independent. Well, he's never actually said otherwise, in the sense that he has never actually formally said Ukraine should revert to being a province of Russia. On the other hand, he's avoiding many questions. He's avoided questions about where the frontier should be. He, for example, in the little clip you showed, quite deliberately did not state where the rare earths on Russian-occupied Ukrainian soil would be part of any deal with Russia. He quite nimbly avoided that. And therefore, there's no discrepancy between what he says and Ukraine ceding a great deal of land to Russia. In that sense, nothing has changed. And therefore, this link about Ukraine fighting on is essentially a point that he's making, that Ukraine doesn't have to stop fighting immediately, but it does not, in any sense or form, give hope to that Ukraine will keep recover any more land, and that America will be a security guarantor.
So, what can we take from this, Dr. Laskiewicz? Does it suggest that at the very least Ukraine and the US and Mr. Zelensky and Mr. Trump seem to be on much better terms than they've been in recent weeks after all that sort of name calling that we heard a few weeks and days ago?
Yes, this is very much the case. There are much better terms because Ukraine has agreed to America's demand that it gets its hands on the rare earths. Okay, not exactly as President Trump wanted before, but near to, close on. So therefore, from that point of view, Trump has relaxed, and therefore there is a link, and they stopped the name calling, but it's all come at a price, and there's a double price for this. The price, first of all, is that America has got the rare earths, and secondly, Europe has been frozen out yet again. It has to be said, why does Europe want to carry on supporting Ukraine when Ukraine's now dealing directly with America and seems to be interested only in America? Please note, the peace negotiations, there's no Europe, that's America's doing. But now the rare earths are not linked to Europe. And that President Zelensky is a full partner to that.
Those are, as always, very good points that you raise, but I suppose from a European point of view, they'd be thinking that, well, whatever the Americans do, this war and this threat is happening on European soil.
Yes, you have to, though, take some a cold-hearted analysis here. You see, this is what America has done. Astonishingly, Donald Trump has been far more cool-headed about what he can extract from war than Europe. The countries that done most and got least out of it is Poland. Poland basically really helped Ukraine at the start when Germany was half-hearted and France, to say the least, and yet there's nothing out of it, literally. And Europe, if it doesn't watch out, goes the Polish route of doing a lot and getting nothing for it. There is room for Europe to make some sort of negotiations or treaties with Ukraine so that Ukraine recognizes Europe's contribution, which, all right, the arms aren't of the same quality, but a lot of money has been given. But instead, what's happened here is at no point was Europe consulted in any shape or form about the rare earths. This is a very strong message to be sending to Europe. And Europe really should think twice about how it goes about things. Not necessarily withdrawing all support, but at the very least drawing up some lines on how it should work with Ukraine in the future.
Indeed. And of course, President Zelensky due in Washington on Friday on a high-profile visit that will signal the start of this very different, very transactional, much more transactional kind of relationship since Donald Trump returned to the White House.
Yes, and this is exactly what Donald Trump wants. He wants business deals, in which case America is no longer going to be financing anybody, hence the cut in US aid all around the world, but no longer financing black holes, financially speaking, like Ukraine. He wanted deals. Ukraine wants arms, it pays for them. In this respect, Donald Trump is making sure that America, in no sense or form, loses out. And simultaneously, as Ukraine fights on, its, if you like, other goal of ensuring Russia doesn't expand too far is also being met. This is hard-headed business dealing, exactly what Donald Trump is well known for, hence his book. What is clear is Europe is not doing this. It is clear that Ukraine has agreed and effectively accepted Donald Trump's approach, and that therefore America has emerged a clear winner over the course of this week.
Well, I suppose President Zelensky doesn't have much of a choice, but from a Ukrainian perspective, and you touched on this a little bit earlier, I mean, the hope must be that this deal gives America and this Donald Trump administration finally a stake in Ukraine and interests to defend possibly against Russian aggression in the future.
I'm not sure about the last part of your sentence. The first is quite correct. It means that, one, Zelensky had no choice or little choice. Agreed. This is the problem. It's American quality of American arms. There's military hardware in a different league to everybody else's. Two, it does keep a link with USA, and this is very important. But three, that America is prepared to defend Ukraine or do anything much more, that is unclear. What is very clear is there is a link. Ukraine has access to arms. It probably as a result will be able to defend itself, which was by no means clear at the beginning of the week when Zelensky was being called a dictator. So there's something in it for Ukraine, but the clear winner overall is America.
Nevertheless, could this now set the tone for where the peace process goes?
Yes, it will to one degree. What is essential to realize is that Donald Trump is a very concrete negotiator. And this is, if you like, the tone that he's approaching Russia. The Europeans have stated that he has done mistakes such as agreeing to Russian demands too far in advance. But Donald Trump, I think, will be able to handle that. But he'll be handling the negotiations in a totally different way, as a sort of transaction, as a deal of some sort with Russia. In this deal, there's something going to be on the business side, because he keeps mentioning this, and so do the Russians, about just how much business is available with Russia. If this goes ahead on those lines, then Russia will dwarf Ukraine in terms of importance, simply because the Russian market is bigger. Russia is a far bigger country. It's a far richer country. And so the net result of a peace deal with the America and Russia will go ahead together and as a result, indeed, of the transactional approach to the deal, which was in your question, with which I agree.
As an aside, I am often amazed at your capacity to range with ease through these very complicated analytical questions. I mean, how many books have you written again? You can't remember either.
On different subjects, but about the Russian conflict, there are about 4 of them. And the point is that we're still, unfortunately, heading for World War III as it stands for one clear basis. There is no way that Russia can be stopped easily. Russia is still slowly advancing. And this is something to bear in mind. However, if we keep striking peace deals, then perhaps we can avoid this nasty prospect. The real interesting aspect about this week has been the complete eclipse of not only Europe, but of NATO. And this is why I'm saying there's a danger here, because if NATO goes, in effect, which it has, it ceases to be of interest, and Europe is unable, if you like, to work with America properly, then that is a very bad aspect in the long run and gives Russia a great deal of hope, which is the real problem at the nub of the issue, is that Russia still wants more.
We're going to let you go in just a minute, Dr. Laskiewicz, but I mean, given the books that you've written and the prognosis contained in those books, your concerns about the possibility of a third world war with Russia at the center of it and Ukraine also perhaps the catalyst of it. I mean, are you more hopeful now that a man like Donald Trump has appeared on the scene and seems to be keen to achieve some kind of peace there?
No, because there's several weak points to Trump which haven't come through. He is anti-war. And what's more, it's by no means clear if he has this approach that he's prepared, if push comes to shove, to put American troops on the ground anywhere. Number 2, he's a businessman, not a politician. And although transactional deals work, Russia's very complicated to negotiate with, and he might well slip up on the political aspects of any deal, one of which will be that by actually reinforcing Russia's rule over parts of Ukraine will be a mistake. Number 3, by dropping out of NATO and not supporting Europe, the key question is, will he do anything if Russia, for example, moves on the Baltic states, where there are Russian minorities, which were equally, if you like, would like to be part of Russia, just as the ones in eastern Ukraine wanted to. And ultimately, the problem really is whether such a war might go nuclear, and that's not going to happen in Ukraine. It never was going to happen in Ukraine. The actual battleground will be Poland, and that will be the place where any are used. And again, it doesn't seem clear that Donald Trump appreciates the military side of how this could go either. But as for his transactional deals, well, this week has been a superb success for him.
Well, I shall let that last bit before your final words hang ominously in the air. I want to thank you very much indeed. We're deeply appreciative of your analysis. He is, of course, an international affairs analyst, Dr. Marek Laskiewicz, talking to me on the line there from London.